Good morning guys, Grant Davidson here, your usual Friday webinar host. So just give you guys a couple minutes. I see a few people are still just joining there. So let me just say one thing while we wait for others to join there, guys. Great to see such a great turnout on these webinars now. We have some new attendees joining every single week, as well as those who have consistently turned in, sort of attended right from the very get-go, back when we had a much more humble number of attendees. We're really, really grateful that you guys continue to come along on these, so thank you all very much. Okay, and what I would say as well is definitely, guys, tuning in today is a good decision, as we're going to be showing you something I guarantee you're just going to go off and play with for sure. I've already spent way too much time tinkering with it. And for those of you who haven't heard anything about it, SOLIDWORKS Visualize is a true top-end rendering package. Just came out very, very recently and available for everyone with SOLIDWORKS Professional and Premium. So really, no reason why you wouldn't go ahead and get it downloaded and have a look at it. It really is a great package, intuitive to use, and really excited to share it with you guys today. So let's go ahead and jump into the webinar and start showing you guys exactly that. Okay, so a little bit different today, guys. We're going to begin on the SOLIDWORKS website rather than SOLIDWORKS itself. So that is just solidworks.com, and up in the top sort of blue bar you've got there, we're going to click on login and we're going to go straight to our customer portal. Now if you don't have a customer portal login or a SOLIDWORKS ID as it's known, a lot of benefits can be had by having that. We've done various webinars on all the benefits available to you, so it's definitely worth creating one. And Visualize is another one of those now. Obviously, I've got my credentials pre-filled in there, so I'm going to click login and log in and let you guys see where we can find Visualize. So it's been made really, really easy to find here, guys. In our quick links page, we've got SOLIDWORKS Visualize. We just need to click on that, and we're taken to the Visualize page where it all starts to get quite exciting with nice renders and different things dotted about the page. Really, really easy, guys. Fill out your form to get started and we can go ahead and download Visualize. It's literally that simple, like any other application. Now, once you have downloaded it, guys, you'll get this nifty little desktop icon. It's also added to your programs list as well, of course, but we get this desktop icon to join your SOLIDWORKS one, which is already on your desktop. Now, if I double click this, what you'll find is Visualize is actually a complete standalone package. It's actually out with SOLIDWORKS. That means it can be placed on another machine if need be. So we're going to open this up, and this is what it looks like, guys. So quite a simple interface, really. And initially, at least anyway, we've just got the option to go ahead and start a new project or open an existing one we've maybe been working on. I'm going to, in this case, click on one of the sample projects. Now, a couple of reasons I'm doing this, guys. One, the model looks absolutely awesome. And two, you already have access to these. So when you do the download, this 1969 Camaro, you guys will be able to access that and use it as well. So you can basically do this webinar yourself if you want to. And naturally, those of you who do know me, I'm a bit of a petrol head, so naturally it was going to be a car in the webinar today. So we'll open this up, guys, and we'll start giving you a little bit of a tour of the Visualize interface. And there we go. So there are worse things to be looking at on this Friday morning. And first things first here, guys, how do we actually start manipulating and moving about our screen? Because it is a little bit different from SOLIDWORKS, although just as easy. Now, the main key when it comes to Visualize is Alt. Alt is our hotkey that allows us to do everything. So for example, Alt and the left mouse button will allow us to rotate about the model. Alt and the middle mouse button will allow us to pan the model about the screen. And Alt and our right mouse button allows us to zoom in on the model. As I say, a little bit different from SOLIDWORKS, but just as easy once you get into the swing of it. Now, I will come clean, guys, to be honest. When I was first getting started with Visualize, I used this toolbar up top, and that really helped me. I didn't jump into using the hotkeys straight away. In this toolbar, where my mouse cursor is at the moment, you can independently choose the zoom option, the pan option, and the rotate option. And that is a little bit easier as you're just getting started. So I'd maybe recommend making a start with that, and you're kind of moving in one axis, as it were, for a little while before you jump on to using the Alt hotkey. Now the far left icon in this toolbar allows us to choose the preview quality of our sort of preview of the render. So at the moment it's set to preview, which is quite a quick but reasonable representation of the model. And we've also got fast. Now if I click on fast, what you'll notice is we get a better preview of the render, but it takes a little bit more sort of computational resources, if you like. So it's a little bit heavier on the system, a little bit slower to respond, but we do get that nicer, more accurate ray tracing on the model, as you can see. And accurate is the same again, but another step up. If we click accurate, again, it's a little bit slower to respond, but it's really, really accurate in terms of what we're going to get as an output. Moving along here, guys, we then have manipulation options. So we have the option to scale, move, or indeed pivot the model right from that dialog there. Next one along is, as I explained, our sort of independent move, pan, all that sort of thing. And then the last one is our output options, which we'll come to a little bit later once we've got a nice render set up. Now over on the right hand task pane, there'll be a strange familiarity to this, I'm sure. Now, as you can see in this first tab, I've got what is almost like a feature tree. So if I click on this, you can see I've got sort of my top level assembly and I can make adjustments therein. The next one along is appearances. We've got an appearances tab, and this is all the appearances which are already applied to the model. As you can see, we've got a fair few already on there. Next one along is environments. So if I go to my environments tab, we've got a few in there, although we can add our own as well. Next up is camera angles, and this is all our sort of longitude, latitude, twist, perspective, all that sort of thing. And then the final tab is our sort of design library, if you like. So it holds all our appearances. Everything that's put on from the standard install is found in there. And we'll come to that a little bit later. Now, as you guys can see, in my toolbar there, I can go ahead and set up this camera angle however I like, or I can use my Alt and Hotkey, or I can use the top toolbar there to twist it and manipulate it into position. However, I've already got 6 pre-made camera angles set up here. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on one of these to move it into a sort of low, nice looking sort of angle, and we'll work with this. Now that's looking pretty good, but obviously I want a nice fitting background to this as well. The camera angle now looks great, but how do we get that nice background in here? Well, that's going to be a case of going to our Scenes tab and choosing our environment. So if I scroll down, we do have a Route 66 background, which I think will go really nice with the vehicle in this case. So we'll drag that over, drop it in, and let that take effect. And it's literally that simple, guys. You'll find a lot of this interface is simple sort of drag and drop stuff, which is great. Really, really intuitive to use. I'm also going to switch back over to my preview setting, guys, rather than using fast. That will allow me to sort of manipulate and move around the model a little bit quicker at the sacrifice of a little bit of accuracy of the textures and appearances, but that's okay right now. So let's move around this model, start having a look at it, and make sure that we're happy with how it's sat in the scene. So let's maybe scroll around here and just start having a look. And as we can see, it's not exactly sat straight on that road, so I'd like that to be the case. So if I just use my transform tool here over on the tools dialog, I can go ahead and position that a little bit better. So we'll straighten that up on the road. Doesn't need to be perfect, just a bit better than it is at the moment. And then I would also like to adjust the scale. I think these sort of big American muscle cars, they almost fill these big American lanes, so we want to adjust the scale here. Now, you can do it by XYZ, but you may end up with a really almost limousine style car. Control Z also works in Visualize, guys. You'll be glad to hear, as I've just used it there to get my proportions back in. So what I tend to use is the Scale All tool, but if I use the slider here, I'll show you guys one of the problems of that. Not a problem as such, but something to be aware of certainly, is if I slide this forward, it's quite sensitive. It jumps an awful lot. So if I just move it from the number dialog, it's much more controllable. And we'll get that to an appropriate size. That's looking pretty good. So I'm quite happy with that positioning, happy with the scale of the car, and let's zoom back out here, and a little bit of a problem's occurred. We're kind of cutting through that tarmac there now. Now thankfully, Visualize is pretty clever, and you can see here I've got a snap to floor option. Now if I click on that snap to floor, it's basically able to take my geometry, snap it onto the floor of the scene, and I don't need to do any more work beyond that. So that's all looking really good. I'm quite happy with that. However, the car isn't exactly as I'd like it. I'd like to make some amendments to it. First off, these chrome wheels, a little bit shiny for me. I would prefer these to be a sort of gunmetal colour. How do we go about that? Well, if I click in my Appearances tab, I'm now free to go ahead and use any of the appearances which have previously been applied to this model. There's nothing really there I like. So I'm going to click in my file library instead, and I'm going to use the vast visualize library for my materials to find one that I'll be happy with. So scrolling down here, we've got metallic paint, and if we scroll through, some of these are looking quite good. However, maybe it's the case that you can't quite find that exact colour you're looking for. Now, although the library is vast, we have access to an even vaster resource. And see where my mouse cursor is right now? If I click on that, it takes me to the Cloud Visualize library where I've got access to even more materials. Now these do need to be downloaded, but it's a very quick process and you can then drag and drop them onto your model. However, we are just going to use the ones which are on my local drive at the moment. So I'm going to go back to my metallic paint, and I want a sort of gunmetal colour here, guys. So I'm going to go for that sparkling sparkling graphite metallic. Get it right. We'll drag that over and drop it on. Now you can see this is a sort of split rim arrangement, and the way it's been modelled represents that. So this is a really neat trick that I learned not that long ago actually, to be able to copy our materials and paste them onto other components in the assembly rather than having to drag and drop them every time. If I hold down my Shift key and right click on the material that I want, it allows me to copy the material. I can then paste it onto anywhere that I like. So if I hold down Shift, right click and left click where I want to paste it, that works really, really nicely. And we'll also left click on the back wheel here to go ahead and paste it on there as well. So there we go, that's looking much better. Looking really good now. So from there, guys, we're going to go ahead and just start finishing this render off. We'll start getting the final touches to it. Now one of the things I'd like to add to it, again, is going to be another appearance being added here, but I would like to give it a sort of simulation of the lights being on. So again, I should say not dissimilar to SOLIDWORKS. What we can do is using my part selection tool, go ahead and click on the component and hide it out. I'm going to hide out this cover so I can apply the material to the bulb itself. So I'm going to go back to my file library here. I'm going to choose a nice light here, maybe give the 1969 Camaro a modern twist. We'll give it some xenon lights. And all I need to do is drag that over and drop it into place once again, guys. And again, as I said, not dissimilar to SOLIDWORKS. If I go back to my feature tree here, you can see my hidden component. I'm just going to go ahead and show that once again to bring the lens cover back on. And there we go, looking great. Pretty happy with that. However, let's just add a little bit more sort of realisticness to this render, and I'm going to select the model again here, and you can see this model in particular allows me to go ahead and twist the wheel. Again, give it that little bit more depth to the render, and there we go, that's looking really, really good now. Now, final touches here, guys. Say we want to go ahead and adjust the color on the car. Now, again, I can just drag that over, drop it into place. That's maybe a little bit bright for the car. I think metallic night. That's looking great. Let's use that one. However, let's imagine it is the case that I also want to change the stripes, or I want to adjust the color. Well, if I drag over and just drop onto the stripes that I've got here, again, because of the way that they've been modeled in the part as split lines, I can simply drag and drop onto it. However, in this case, I think I'm just going to leave the stripes as white. Now, obviously, when it comes to rendering, you want to have complete control over the way your appearances are going to look, and we can, of course, do that. If I select the appearance applied to this body here and go to my Appearances tab, have a look at this, guys. This is pretty amazing. Right down to the flake color, flake roughness, your clear coat, the physical flakes in the paint, we can adjust each and every one of these parameters. It's pretty fantastic when you get into it, and you can really get your appearances looking just exactly how you want them, which is ideal when it comes to a high-end rendering package like this. Now the final thing I'm going to do here, guys, back in my camera view, I'm going to turn up the perspective a little bit just to give it, again, as I said, that little bit more depth to the render, and that's looking great. I'm happy to go ahead and render this one. Now when I click on my output tools, I get this neat little dialog where I can go ahead and choose my file name, the output folder, image format, everything right down to the render quality and the resolution that this is going to put out. So I'm just going to keep it largely as defaults here, guys, but there is one setting I'd like to make you aware of here, and this is really handy. I use this a lot. Under render mode, rather than saying, okay, give us the best quality that you can, if we're on a bit of a time limit, the boss or the client or whoever it happens to be, they want a photorealistic rendering by lunchtime, well, we can set this over to time limit and say, okay, visualize, we've got 30 minutes, give us your best in that time. And that's exactly what I'm going to do here, guys. I'm going to enter 30 minutes, hit my enter key, and immediately you can see SOLIDWORKS Visualize gets busy with this. Now, I've intentionally made sure that this pops up just to warn you guys about it. It's definitely not a problem, but if, like me, you do have a Windows firewall installed, and I think most people do, you may need to allow access for Visualize to run. As I say, it's not a huge deal. We just need to click Allow Access, and it will start running. Now, it does bring up a preview, but the beauty behind this, guys, is we can go ahead and minimize that and get on with the rest of our work. So if we're going to go back and we're going to work in SOLIDWORKS, we're going to do whatever, we can do exactly that, which is great. So the render will tick away in the background, and then after 30 minutes, and do remember, guys, this render I'm about to show you was literally done in 30 minutes in Visualize. After 30 minutes, we get a beautiful photorealistic rendering. Absolutely fantastic package, guys. I'm sure you will agree. And that was just almost sort of scratching the surface of Visualize. Now, the absolute best way to get going with Visualize is just to download it. As I showed you at the beginning of this webinar, you can get it straight from the customer portal, download it, and immediately start pulling your models in and playing about with renders. And it really is one of those packages, guys, you can't go far wrong with it. So tweak the settings, play with things. It's really intuitive. Download it, have a go with it, guys. And of course, if you've got any questions, our email address is on screen at the moment. We'll get back to you as quick as we can. Or indeed, if you want, just give us a call in. If you want to ask for me, please feel free. If you just want to have a chat about Visualize, that's no problem at all. Okay, guys, that does conclude our webinar for today. Our next one will take place 2 weeks today, and we hope to see you on that one. For now, though, guys, have a fantastic weekend. Cheers.